Today we're going to begin our last unit, which is on drama, and we're going to just do an introduction to drama today to get started. So what is drama? It comes from the Greek word for action. So unlike short stories or novels, drama is written to be performed by actors and watched by an audience. A play is written by a playwright, that's who the author is, and everything a playwright writes must appear on stage. So what we will be reading is a script, which is the play that is written by that playwright, and the playwright must write the dialogue, which is what the characters say to each other in conversation, as well as the stage directions, which tells the reader how the play is to be performed. And we'll be looking at both of those closer. So plays are to be performed by actors, and they play roles and represent the storyline through dialogue, action, and gestures. So each part is written for the purpose of being acted out by a specific person taking on this role of the character. So if we look at drama, the genre, it's going to consist, like I said, of two types of writing. We have the dialogue, which is what the characters are speaking, and then also there are going to be stage directions that tell the actors how to move and speak, and then they also describe the sets and props. Okay, and then also when we are looking at the genre of drama, we have to understand that it can be presented in two ways. So what we're most commonly used to seeing it as a performance, and that's the production of a play in a theater, but it also is literature. So the text of the play itself is a work of literature that can be read by one person without having to be performed by the audience. And so we are going to be looking at drama as literature in this course. Okay, so there are important features that we have to take note of that make drama unlike novels or short stories. So plays are divided into acts and scenes, and I cannot emphasize this enough. This is why it's multiple times in this video. Is the scripts feature a list of characters and stage directions which require the reader to pause and visualize the setup. So stage directions are just as important as the dialogue, but readers and actors must pay close attention to the dialogue in order to understand the characters and the action. So, as was mentioned before, plays are divided up into acts. The number of acts in a production can range from 1 to 5, depending on how a writer structures the outline of the story. The length of time for an act to be performed can be anywhere from 30 to 90 minutes. And then those acts are broken down even further. They're divided into scenes, and in classical theater, each regrouping between entrances and exits of actors is considered a scene. So when one group of actors would go off stage and another group would come onto the stage, that would be a scene in traditional classical theater. But now today, a scene describes usually a quick change of setting. And remember, setting can be either time or location. So sometimes they'll drop the curtain and put out completely new props, or sometimes for a scene change, it'll just be a time change, and it still will look like the same setting, but be a different time of day, later on in the story, things like that. So stage directions are very important. You cannot read a play and only read the dialogue between characters. You have to focus on the stage directions as well. Stage directions are the notes in the script, which are usually written in italics and enclosed in parentheses or brackets. They usually describe where and when a scene takes place, which is the setting. They also describe how the characters should say the lines, which gives us a lot of insight into the character's mood and their feelings as well. And then how the characters should move on stage. And so all of these things do explain the character's mood and their feelings, which is extremely important because we don't have a narrator telling us what is going on and telling us about what they're thinking or how they're feeling. The characters are thinking or feeling, so we rely on these stage directions to give us that insight. And then stage directions may also describe sets, costumes, props, lighting, and sound effects. This is all in order for the playwright to take the vision that they have of the play from their mind and allow the director to recreate it on the stage. Dialogue is extremely important as well, because this is what's going to be the majority of the play, is going to be dialogue between characters. So it's what the characters say, and it's used to reveal their personalities, feelings, thoughts, all of those things that we would maybe get from a narrator in a traditional short story or novel. The name of the character who's speaking is listed, usually in bold, at the start of a line, followed by a colon. Each time the speaker changes, a new line starts, and dialogue is necessary in order to develop the conflict and advance the plot. So all the action takes place through conversations between the different actors. So, like I mentioned, we don't have a narrator. So we have to do a little bit of work in order to kind of fill in the gaps of the narrator. So there are a few exceptions, but for the most part, plays do not have narrators. Therefore, the audience must glean critical information from the dialogue and the action on stage, or that would be the stage directions if you're reading the play. So it's very important that you're inferencing, that you're gathering clues on the characters' personalities, their feelings, their thoughts, their emotions, things like that whenever you are reading, because we don't have the narrator there to tell us. So we don't have narrators, but we do have these three things that function like fictional narrators. So those are monologues, soliloquies, and asides, which are dramatic techniques that provide direct insight into the motives, attitudes, and overall tone of the play. And so a monologue is an extended speech by one character. So it's where we have one character who's standing on the stage and they're giving an extended speech that's heard by the other characters. And this is really where they are like, it can almost be seen as like a rant, though it might not always have the tone of a rant, but it's where they are pouring out a lot of dialogue that gives us a lot of insight of what is going on with them in this play. We also have soliloquies, and so what a soliloquy is, it's the same as a monologue. It's an extended speech by one character. However, the difference is that character is alone on the stage. So it's usually used to express the private thoughts of one character. And then lastly, we have aside, which is a character's direct address to the audience, which is not heard by the other characters. So this is when a character is breaking the fourth wall and they're addressing and acknowledging the audience and saying something to them. And so usually when a play is being performed, the actors and characters are going on telling the story as if the audience isn't really there. There's that separation, but this is where they break that fourth wall and break the separation. There are two types of drama. Traditionally, they fall into two categories, which are comedies and tragedies. Comedies are dramatic works which use humor to explore various themes and characters, and they usually end on a happy note. Tragedies, on the other hand, show the downfall or death of a tragic hero or main character. In ancient Greek plays, the hero was a good person brought down by a tragic fall or defect in character. So we have the story of Achilles, who was a Greek hero, and he was brought down by his Achilles heel, which was his weak spot where he could be attacked. And then we have, in modern plays, the hero can be a normal person destroyed by an evil in society. Okay, so they can be destroyed by an evil in society and their flaws that go in with that. Plot elements are important to take note of whenever you're reading drama. Just like short stories, plays are told using a plot, which is the overall storyline and sequence of events. So we have exposition, which introduces the characters, setting, and basic situation. Rising action presents the central conflict, complications, suspense, and crisis. Then we have the climax, which is the point of greatest tension. The following action, which is where the intensity is subsiding. and then the resolution ties up all loose ends and concludes the action. That doesn't mean that there is a solution, but it comes to an end as the resolution. So when reading drama, you need to pay particular attention to the overall plot. Ask yourself, what are the major conflicts or issues? When does the climax occur? And then what force or forces seem to be at work in the play moving the action along? And then you also have to pay very close attention to characters. Who are the central characters? What do you know about their personalities? How do you know this information? And what are the characters' strengths and weaknesses? And then also, it's extremely important that you pay attention to theme, because all plays, like all works of literature, will have a theme. And so this is a central theme or life lesson that we learn from the play. There can also be multiple themes. So when reading a play, create a list of theme topics like love, death, loyalty, and then you will turn those theme topics into a theme statement. So that is what the author is teaching us about love, what the author is teaching us about death, what the author is teaching us about loyalty, that lesson that we're learning from them. And then we'll back up that interpretation with examples from the text. So we use text evidence to support our theme statement. So reading drama, you do a lot of the same things that you would reading short fiction or novels, but there's just a few different things you have to note based on the differences of the genre. So for your assignment, you are going to start reading the play that we're going to be covering, which is Fences by August Wilson. Your first assignment is to read Act 1, Scene 1 and 2, which is on page 685 in the textbook. So go ahead and get started on that, and we will be reading the entirety of this play in chunks, but just start with that portion for now.